What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
When we heal from our traumas,
when we face our fears,
let go of our addictions,
when we relearn our values,
when we live our teachings,
respecting our elders,
cherishing and honoring our children,
when we honor and take care of our spirit,
there will be no room left for sexual violence.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon, Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
If you're hurting in your relationship or have been affected by sexual violence, you're not alone. Strong Hearts Native Helpline can help you through these difficult and uncertain times. Strong Hearts Helpline is a free 24/7 confidential domestic dating and sexual violence helpline for Native Americans. Help is available by calling 1-844-762-8483 or by clicking on the Chat Now icon on strongheartshelpline.org. This message is sponsored by the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Clear skies overnight tonight, getting down to 46 degrees. Then sunshine Wednesday with a high of 68. Cafe Latte at Victoria Street and Grand Avenue in St. Paul provides an award-winning array of salads, sandwiches, and soups, treats from the bakery made fresh daily, and a pizza and wine bar. Check them out today at cafelatte.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be Indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hitting cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
I am awake. Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakunjahare, which means distant thunder in Ho-Chunk language. And Ho-Chunk is the people of the sacred voice, Wendy.
Mm-hmm.
You know that?
I thought it was the people of the big voice.
That too.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a very sacred big voice. I just wanted to throw that out there. Hey. And my colonized name is Robert Pilot, and we discuss Native issues here because we all know that Native issues are human issues and human issues are Native issues.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. Call them at 651-304-9986. They're open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. for all your COVID-19 questions.
Well, I've had a long day. I'm ready to take a nap. And I know Ogima's had a long day and her day's not ending. Want to give a quick shout out to her significant other.
Jace, yep.
Well, I didn't want to say his name, but.
Yeah, happy birthday, Jace.
Right. We wanted to be anonymous and kind of sneaky about it, but hey, happy birthday, Jace. And I don't know, a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
And why don't we get to Ogima with the news? And before we do, we got Taysha who's coming on, and she's a real warrior woman. And that's really ironic that you're wearing the warrior woman shirt today because she is out there doing the things that really help our people, and is a big voice. So how ironic was that? Ogima, welcome, and long time no see, and welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and bringing us the news that you don't hear anywhere else all over Turtle Island.
Hi, Anim Boujou. In case you're wondering, that joke, long time no see, was because Robert and I just seen each other about 7 minutes ago on our last show, which was about COVID-19 in Alaska. It was a really good show. If you get a chance, you should check it out and send it to your relatives up in Alaska. Today, I want to cover a couple of upcoming events. Tomorrow, the 22nd, the Indigenous Resistance Against Carbon event is happening. It is a live webinar featuring Indigenous frontliners. It is live at 7 p.m. Central Time via IEN, or Indigenous Environmental Network, on Facebook, or via their website, IEN Earth, or via Zoom at the link if you want to check out their Facebook page for the event information. This coming Thursday, if you're in the Twin Cities at 1 o'clock, is the Goodberry Cookbook food demo at the Four Sisters Farmers Market. Taysha Hart just recently wrote The Goodberry, Harvesting and Preparing Wild Rice and Other Wild Foods. And to celebrate this, the Four Sisters Farmers Market has partnered with a lot of other great organizations, some of which Native Roots Radio works with regularly, like the Native American Community Development Institute, to have a cooking demonstration put on by Derek Nicholas of the Red Cliff Band of Ojibwe, who also wrote a cookbook. I believe it is called Cooking with the Seasons on a Shinabeg. It's a really, really exciting book as well. So again, that's Thursday in the Twin Cities at 1 o'clock at the Four Sisters Farmers Market. Friday at 1 o'clock is the Boarding School Survivor and Victim Memorial March at the Minnesota Indian Women's, brought to you by the Minnesota Indian Women's Resource Center in the Twin Cities. So that's another really great event. Don't forget to stop Line 3. There's People versus Fossil Fuels coming up in October. October 11th through 15th is the People versus Fossil Fuels rally in Washington, D.C. So that's going to be kicking off on Indigenous Peoples Day. I wanted to make sure people know about that. And then on October 18th, Poet Laureate Joy Harjo, and writer and performer from the Muskogee Creek Nation, is going to be having a virtual webinar brought to you by the Leech Lake Tribal College. You can register at fdltcc.edu. It is free to register for the event and to come, and that's going to be exciting. The event is called Bringing Joy. Some other exciting things happening in the Line 3. Enbridge admitted that they're going to have trouble getting the required coverage that they need for Line 3 to ensure the pipeline. They admitted it to the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission, in a filing last week, basically saying that they have the coverage required by the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission, but they're basically seeing an aversion to insurance within the oil market due to carbon emission concerns and low profitability, especially in tar sands pipelines like Enbridge. So make sure that if you have not yet, divest. Robert talks about it at the end of the show every day. Resist, divest, join a group, and run for office. Divesting and calling these companies is a really good way to kind of put your money where your mouth is. Pull your money out of these companies and call them and tell them that as their consumers that you don't support them. So make sure to check out defundline3.com or defundline3.org to find ways that you can divest. Another exciting thing that's going to be happening here is that Mark Ruffalo has announced a partnership with Sarah Eaglehart, and they're going to be co-producing a film on the present day fight for the Black Hills.
Wow.
So that's going to be really exciting. The documentary film studio XTR announced just Tuesday that it's making a Lakota Nation versus the United States feature-length documentary chronicling the Lakota Indians' present-day request to reclaim the Black Hills. So it's going to be awesome.
Lewis, what do you think of that?
I'm hoping it's going to be great. We didn't on the issue, and man, we beat them in 1980 in the Supreme Court. Let's do it again.
Right on. Sorry, Ogima, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was actually going to pass over my last minute to Lewis Eagle Thunder, who wanted to bring up an important point on a trend that's happening on TikTok. Why don't you go ahead, Lewis?
Yeah, absolutely. This has kind of been over, Native Talk social media. In the same area that Gabby Petito disappeared, 710 Indigenous people, mostly girls, disappeared between the years of 2011 and 2020, but their stories did not lead news cycles or anything, writes Molly Jongfast. And that's from the Daily Beast. And this brings up the issue, Native Roots Radio, that this is a clear and present issue when it comes to Indigenous people, that we are not garnering the same type of mainstream media attention. 710 Indigenous women missing in the same area, no news coverage. And this is an atrocity. Where are our allies, man? Where are our allies with other POC groups and other white allies that want to be our allies? Put hashtag MMIW. Don't just be a hashtag, be about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to put in there too. For those of you who aren't familiar, Gabby Petito is a young woman who went missing, I believe, somewhere outside of Utah, while on a cross-country road trip with her partner, and her body was recently recovered after she went viral, and there was a nationwide search for her. But that type of coverage has not happened for any Native person that I'm aware of. I think the closest that we could consider would be Savannah Greywind, and that was mostly a local and regional response. So what we're looking at as Native people is continually, it is terrible what happened to Gabby Petito. It is. This should not happen to anybody's child. But as Native people and as people of color, we regularly experience that when we go missing or we are found murdered, that we do not receive the same level of being looked for or justice as non-Native people. And that is why Gabby Petito's disappearance and murder is trending with Native people, is that there's so many more of us missing for every Gabby Petito and nobody's responding.
Wow, really good point. I know Wendy and I have been talking about that, and I know now that they have found her, I think we're speaking out a little more because it was a little precautious for that during the investigation and everything. But Lewis and Ogima Giniw Ikwe, so much for bringing that up. The disparities, Wendy, are insane.
It is crazy. It's just unbelievable.
What year are we living in, and what upside down world? We're all one people. Join the circle. Support, like Lewis said, do more than just get a little MMIW sticker. Speak your mind and help support Native Americans and Indigenous people that are gone missing every single minute of the day. We'll be right back. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake Up. Next up, Chase.
If you're hurting in your relationship or have been affected by sexual violence, you're not alone. Strong Hearts Native Helpline can help you through these difficult and uncertain times. Strong Hearts Helpline is a free 24/7 confidential domestic dating and sexual violence helpline for Native Americans. Help is available by calling 1-844-762-8483 or by clicking on the Chat Now icon on strongheartshelpline.org. This message is sponsored by the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center.
Unwanted sexting or photos, inappropriate jokes, even tickling or wrestling can feel like a violation. Catcalling, cornering, or groping, getting them drunk or high for sex, recording sexual acts without permission, hurting someone because of their sexual orientation, raping a family member, a child, a date, a friend, a stranger, purchasing a human being for sex. You make the choice every single time. Sexual violence is many things. Make a choice. Do not do it.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, Ogima, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Bijou, I am Oshawashko Gijig. I'm from Red Lake Nation, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hare.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Montessori American Indian Child Care Center. They're hosting an event called the Payne Phelan Harvest Festival, and it will take place on Saturday, September 25th from 1 to 4 p.m.
Hey, we're totally blessed to have Chase Iron Eyes on the phone, and Chase has been on only a few times, and we want to have him so regular, Wendy. He's with the Lakota People's Law Project, but he does more than that, and I really consider him a brother, and I really appreciate you coming on Native Roots Radio, Chase. Welcome.
Hey, it's my honor, and anytime, I really am. I just believe in getting the voice out there, not just my voice, but the dedication that you guys are showing toward Native radio and even online, on the webcast, the live cast. It all needs to happen. There's enough room. There's more than enough room, actually. We're seeing a huge need for Indigenous content that is developed from our perspective, and so that's why I do enjoy coming on anytime I get the chance.
Well, Pinigi, we got people in Chicago and Madison listening, Chase, and maybe you can tell, before we get into it, tell a little bit about what what you do. I know I first heard of you when we were marching at the TCF Bank Stadium, and no mascots, and your leadership there with a lot of other big leaders.
Yeah, I was born into one of these families, a treaty family or an American Indian Movement family, traditional family, and so it wasn't until I was 19 years old, and I'll make this very quick, because when you bring up the TCF and the no mascot movement, the movement for Indigenous peoples to reclaim our agency, to determine the ways that we are represented, that rather than caricaturized, that is an extremely important part of the path that my work has taken. But I was introduced to it while I was at the University of North Dakota. They were formerly known as the Fighting Sioux, and I went to St. Cloud for a protest. The St. Cloud Huskies, I believe, a hockey game was going on, and Clyde Belcourt, and this is when Vernon was with us, R.I.P. But I met Clyde and Vernon right there when I was 19 years old, and was just honored to be working with them in their presence. I had read all about the work that had started in Minneapolis, St. Paul area, and it resulted, those days resulted in, one of the updates that we have as Lakota People's Law Project, something we've been covering also with Last Real Indians, which is kind of a blog or just an online platform, is this recent. And I've also been on the American Constitution Societies. They have an annual a panel every Constitution Day. So I was on this panel with gentlemen like Keith Harper and Matt Fletcher from Turtle Talk Law. Keith Harper from a lot of things. He's a former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations during President Obama, during that administration, and then some other key Indigenous women who were also on that panel. But we discussed in detail this recent Supreme Court case. I should say that Texas is trying to convince the Supreme Court to take up this case, and it's related to all of these things are connected. Brackeen is about, versus the Department of Interior is about On its surface, it's an ICWA case, but the law firm that is representing the family that is, has taken this Indian child, they're also the same law firm that is involved at Standing Rock, which you mentioned earlier. They represent big oil, people like Energy Transfer Partners or Enbridge. They might even be representing Enbridge. I'm not quite. There's a great podcast out there that the listeners need to go and check out because it's very brief and it does a good job. It's called This Land by a woman named Rebecca Nagel. And in there, I've been talking about ICWA since 2012 is when I my consciousness was raised. And I worked with the National Native American Boarding School Healing Project, NABS. It's right there in St. Paul, Minnesota. A good friend, Christine McLeod, is the executive director there. I'm a former board member of that organization. And I also understand, at this top of my head, that they recently hired Deborah Parker, who did a lot of great work with the passage of the Violence Against Women's Act, VAWA. When we're speaking about MMIW, kind of the symptoms of our confrontations with big extraction, we've got to recognize that with all of the mass graves being unearthed, that the colonial legacy is our lives today. Like this is not something in the past. So when we're talking about residential schools or we're talking about boarding schools, this forced kidnapping, it's a form of trafficking and genocide. What happened to us? And then later on, the Indian Scoop and the Indian Adoption Project in the United States caused a lot of our young people to be taken away wholesale. And then now we've got state departments of social services that continue that legacy of taking Native children from the Native family and placing them in non-Indian homes and institutions. So this is going to be potentially decided in the Supreme Court very soon. And I'll end by saying that much more is up for grabs when we're talking about indigenous sovereignty, because you have these industries that have endless resources. They can hire these not only law firms to fight in the courts, but lobbyists. So they are intent on having our sovereignty and in the courts of law in the United States. It's called, we are a political entity. We are not a race. We're not a racial class of people, because a race's kind of highest motivation is to obtain equality and civil rights on par with the European American hetero-patriarchic founding fathers. That is kind of the height of attainment of those rights as a race or as a citizen. For Native people, indigenous nations, we have a much older predecessor sovereign status. So their courts up to this point, even though we're in the courts of the colonizer, they have recognized that, hey, we are something different. We are not a race. Right. We are our own political designation. So that's at risk right now. At the same time that, our team is at Line 3 right now. Madonna Thunderhawk, who I tried to get to come on the show, but they might be in a place where there's no reception. I don't know what's going on. That dynamic changes at Line 3 from day to day. So we're trying to pay close attention to that as well.
Right. Wow. Madonna Thunderhawk's up at Line 3 because we're going to talk to Taysha in the next segment. They're probably right by each other.
They very well might be right by each other. That would be very crazy if somehow Madonna was right there. I mean, talk about synchronicity. So tonight you're going to talk to Taysha?
Yeah, right after we're done talking to you.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and because to catch up, and she's got a lot of things going on up there. But we wanted to really touch base with you and all the good words that you have to say and all the knowledge, because, over the radio, we're on progressive radio stations, and we have a lot of white allies that need to hear this and learn this, because, we talk about it so much that this is not in the history books or any books, really.
Yes. That is very important to understand, that the fact that Indigenous peoples, though we are the staunchest survivors and we're indomitable, we can't get to where we're trying to go without allyship, without building bridges into those, those people who were born into those demographics that, they might think of themselves as a colonizer, but as we've discussed before, that, colonizing really is in the way a person lives. It's in that state of mind. So progressive people in this country are natural allies, because at the same time that we're talking about honoring the treaties, progressive people, even any American citizen, is going to have a moment of inquest or a critical inquiry within themselves when they're asking, who am I? Why am I here? And what rights do I even have to be in this country? And most people are going to just ascribe to whatever kind of identities are passed, transmitted through the American education system. This is why they used to make us stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Exactly. This is why they don't teach you about Indigenous history. They just teach you that there's a bunch of half-naked barbarians running around the plains chasing buffalo. They were uncivilized. This was some pristine wilderness, and we tamed it. Right? We're the heroes. We're the settlers. We're the discoverers. We're the pioneers. The explorers. And so it's in our cultural mythology, these misunderstandings. And so a lot of my work has been to try to build these bridges with people who are willing to face hard truths. I mean, it's not easy.
We'll be right back. Thank you so much, Chase, for being on, and beautiful listening to you. We'll talk to you soon, Pinigigi.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me, Wen. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
Now, more than ever, we are being faced daily with the topic of human mortality. And for many people, estate planning has been top of mind. Getting your estate planning done now can be easy and cost-effective. Schroman Law offers virtual options for initial consultations so that new clients can safely initiate the process. With many facing uncertain financial situations, Schroman Law also offers affordable fees for legal documents. Learn more at schromanlaw.com. That's SCHROMEN law.com.
Tired of out-of-town and newly formed construction companies telling you your home has had damage without even inspecting it? Get an honest assessment from Snap Construction, arguably the most well-reviewed exterior contractor in the metro.
Hi, I'm Ryan, owner of Snap Construction. A few recent storms have come through the Twin Cities that left a trail of damage. And with those storms come out-of-town contractors. Curious if you sustained damage or just want a quote for your upcoming roofing, siding, or window project? Schedule your free inspection today. Locally owned, Snap Construction customers benefit from our exclusive lifetime craftsmanship and product guarantees. Don't just restore your home, improve your home with the best contractor-grade material, warranties, and arguably the most well-reviewed contractor. Google us, Snap Construction.
Contact Snap Construction today for a free estimate. 612-333-SNAP. That's 612-333-SNAP. Or visit us online at snapconstruction.com.
Hey, Tom Harvin here, and you can catch me live every weekday from 11 to 2 following the Stephanie Miller Show right here on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
These days, our home is the center of our world. This is Gregory Rich, founder of Habitation Furnishing and Design and host of Drink in the Style right here on AM 950. If we're all going to be spending a lot more time at home, doesn't it make sense to make your space the most attractive and most functional space it can be? At Habitation, my experienced, degreed interior design staff can help you select the perfect furnishings for your home and your lifestyle. Furniture is more than one size fits all, and there's more to making a room work than a couple of chairs and a sofa. Whether it's a modular sectional carefully selected to maximize your living room, or the perfect bed, dresser, and nightstand combination to create your dream bedroom, Habitation can help you achieve the space you've always wanted. So check us out online at habitationdesign.com or schedule an appointment at our Edina showroom. Habitation Furnishing and Design. Make your home exceptional.
The Army National Guard plays a vital role in your community. We're on the front lines supporting essential personnel, first responders, law enforcement, and medical professionals, delivering food, supplies, and medicine, keeping communities safe, making a difference. During emergencies, we're always ready, always there. Learn more about part-time service in the Army National Guard at nationalguard.com.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Army National Guard, aired by the Minnesota Broadcasters Association and this station.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Clear skies overnight tonight, getting down to 46 degrees, then sunshine Wednesday with a high of 68. Cafe Latte at Victoria Street and Grand Avenue in St. Paul provides an award-winning array of salads, sandwiches, and soups, treats from the bakery made fresh daily, and a pizza and wine bar. Check them out today at cafelatte.com.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by MN350, a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice.
This is a jam-packed day here. We have Taysha Martineau on, and we're really excited to have Taysha on. And, you know, Wendy's wearing a Warrior Woman shirt today from the documentary, and we have it.
Yeah, by total coincidence.
But we have a true young warrior woman on right now. And I know when I talked to Madonna Thunderhawk and all those OGs, they really, really love Taysha and what she does. And she reminds them of themselves when they were young too. So, hey, welcome, Taysha. Thank you so much for being on.
Bonjour, happy to be here. Thank you so much for sharing space with me. It's always such an honor to come on to Native Roots Radio. We met with Madonna Thunderhawk today. Always such an honor to meet, the women who carried these communities for generations before our time. And, it's now our responsibility to start stepping up and, taking those stances for our elders who, now in their age, it isn't as easy for them to storm these easements or, do what it is we're able to do. And, it's just such an honor. And I was very excited to sit down with Madonna today, hold those conversations about, what it means to be an Indigenous woman, what it means to care for the land and stand for, the people and what it truly means to be a warrior. So thank you so much for having me on. And I'm just really happy to be here.
I know when I've talked to Madonna specifically about you, she's brought your name up. And one of the things that, reminded you of her when she was younger was that all these things were coming at them from different directions, from relatives, from the government, when you were speaking your truth. And I know you're speaking your truth out there, and you have a kinship in that way. And how do you keep sane? I know you have little kids, significant other, and you're really leading a movement up there. And how do you keep sane?
The ceremonies that we have existed for thousands of years, and it's our connections to the land, each other, and the world around us that really keep us grounded, really keep us humble, and, utilizing ceremony to remind ourselves that we don't act sacred, we are sacred, is what really helps me keep moving forward.
So right now, I've read somewhere that you are now a cultural specialist up there. Can you tell us what you're doing right now, or is it any different than what you're doing? You're a warrior.
Yeah, so I'm now a cultural activities coordinator. And so while we continue to do the nonviolent direct action at Camp Migizi, we've also included more cultural activities. We've been teaching people, how to utilize every part of the deer the way our ancestors did, how to, treat the hide, how to use the bone, all of those good knowledge that we keep, we've been sharing with everyone who finds time to come out to Camp Migizi. We're also, we're going to start snaring rabbits. We're going to go hunting this season. But the big thing right now is the wild rice. There are multiple rice camps going on. And at Camp Migizi, we're going to start teaching people how to parch wild rice and how to gather that as well. Because that, as an Anishinaabe, it's the wild rice. That's who we are as a people. So we're looking forward to bringing more culture into camp as we evolve here closer to the end of the fight and remind people, what it is we've been fighting to protect.
So, what did you and Madonna talk about? Do you mind sharing a little bit with our audience a little bit? I'm really interested because, again, she's an OG warrior. She was there at Alcatraz all the way up to Standing Rock and now Line 3. And, what did you guys talk about?
We had a really good talk about, what it means to be a woman in a leadership position. My leadership is a lot different than a lot of people have seen. And, a lot of that is because, I learned my leadership from watching the elders, not our tribal council, not those in government in places of power, but the way that our elders uplift our youth and our young ones and empower each of them to lead. That's what the leadership has been modeled after. And, I'm very excited to have met such amazing, strong people on this journey who are going to move forward and also bring, what they learned here at Camp Migizi into future movements, reminding us, to remain humble, because regardless of whether we're looked at as leadership or not, we'll always be one of the people.
We have people listening in Madison and the Twin Cities and Chicago. I'm wondering if you could tell your story about you and your daughter and what got you activated. I think that's a really cool story that should be brought up again, and how she talked to you and how you thought and how you activated after you talked to your daughter.
Yes, so I didn't have custody of my children for a short period there. I fought very hard to get custody of them back. But while on a visitation, my oldest daughter, who I had taken out to Standing Rock, said to me that there was a Standing Rock in Minnesota. And I told her, my girl, no, there's not. Standing Rock was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity where all walks of life came together to fight for that water, to fight for that land. And she said to me, hey, Mama, there needs to be. It's Line 3, and it's coming here. And, when your youth speak like that, you need to listen. So I just told her, I just kind of shrugged my shoulders, and I told her, I know. And she said, then why are you just sitting here? And at that point, I kind of got a little defensive. I was like, well, what do you expect me to do? I'm already fighting the state for custody of you. What is it you want me to do? And she stated, well, we're Anishinaabe. Feed the people. And so my activism started by, going out to the different camps that were around during that time, which was Camp Migizi on the Fond du Lac Reservation and Camp Muckwa, also on the Fond du Lac Reservation. And, from there, it went from feeding the elders, feeding the people, feeding these camps, to one day these camps no longer being there, realizing that someone needed to step up. And I realized that that person should be me, should be all of us. And so from there, we went from hitting Frontlines to becoming the frontline ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a beautiful story. And how we have our children and elders in a sacred way, and you listening to your daughter, and here you are, one of the true leaders here of this fight, and more fights to come. So I know one thing, you're super busy. I want you to be able to tell our audience what kind of support you need up there at Line 3 and what's happening in the next couple minutes here. Could you just fill our audience in where we're at right now?
So we're almost to the end of the fight here, but we still have the opportunity to ensure that no oil goes through the pipe, whether they build it or not. So I'm calling on people, to call your elected officials, call the Biden administration, and join us in Washington, D.C. for Indigenous Peoples Day, where we'll be taking the front line directly to President Biden, who ran his campaign claiming to be a climate champion. We're asking as many people as possible to please meet us and help us by uplifting our voices and ensuring that, this fight isn't over yet. At the height of the fight during Standing Rock, they stated that they were 85% complete. We see spaces where pipe is still not yet in the ground. So if you have the ability to, are able-bodied, we ask that you join us here on the front line in northern Minnesota, and even more so to join us Indigenous People Days in Washington, D.C.
Wow. Taysha, thank you so much for being on. I really, really appreciate this. And it's really great to see a warrior like you doing your thing. And I really just have to say a big Pinigigi thank you in a good way.
Yep, miigwech for having me.
Wow, Wendy, I just unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. It's very inspiring, and it's wonderful to hear her and what she's doing. And I'm sure she's going to be inspiring a lot of young women warriors as well.
Yeah. We got a couple minutes here, Lewis. So what's your take? We love Taysha. What do you got to say?
One thing I want to iterate here is that what she was talking about of transforming a sacred activist space, because all the spaces we hold as Indigenous people are sacred spaces because they're there because of the sacrifices of our ancestors, right? I think of the Woman Warrior film. And as you know, Native Roots Radio, I've been working with them a little bit, and Madonna Thunderhawk, as Chase was saying, and what they've done, especially if you watch that documentary, she created a school to decolonize children, Indigenous children, and teach them traditional ways. So I see this legacy of our wonderful, strong Indigenous women leadership transforming our activist space and interjecting that education so that we can grow and cultivate the next generation of Indigenous leaders, the next generation of Russell Meads, Dennis Banks, all these people. It's so important. Ogima, go ahead.
On the note of you talking about decolonizing our children through education, it is so important to take that time to explain to your children that what they're going to be taught in school, if your children attend regular school, is not going to be history the way that it really happened. And that's something my parents took the time to do with me, and that's something that I take the time to do with my daughter. We're fortunate to live in the time where we're seeing people like reservation dogs on the Emmys. I mean, when I was a kid, that was unheard of to see a Native person in that kind of place in media. And it was unheard of for people like Taysha to be leading the front lines with their families when I was a kid, because nobody had told me the history of Madonna Thunderhawk and the other warrior women of AIM. So the more we know, the better we can do. You do better when you know better, and we have to do better for our children. It's really important to educate them.
And again, we got 30 seconds before we go into our break and do a big talk about wolves with Wendy. We're going to be talking about our sacred animals in the next segment. But it's just amazing. The people, women have always led the way, and the women have been humble about it. And you won't know. You'll be standing next to an auntie, and then you had no idea what this person had done in the 60s, 70s, because they keep it real, keep it humble, and they've always been in the background, but they've always been leading the way. They've always been leading the way, and as it should be. And in this movement too, in every movement, we had some things going on with Ho Chunk, and 80% of the women were running the show. And that's no mistake.
Yep. Buffalo Robe Woman knocked Custer off his horse at the Battle of Little Bighorn. Buffalo Robe Woman. Shout out to her.
Again.
Buffalo Robe Woman knocked Custer off his horse at the Battle of Little Bighorn, which led to him being killed at the Battle of Little Bighorn. So shout out to her.
Right, a big shout out. We'll be right back after this short break with our sacred animal portion with Wendy.
Stay with us.
You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
Hey, Ogima, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
If the statistics say that 1 in 3 Native women and 1 in 6 Native men have experienced sexual assault in their lifetime, it means our whole community is affected by sexual violence. 1 is too many. Don't stand by, stand up. Don't engage in acts of sexual violence, and shut down the dirty jokes, the gossip, the victim blaming and shaming. As a community, we can change the way we respond. Contact the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition to attend a workshop to learn more. Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me one. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
We are Alusa Nation. Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanjahare.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Why do I keep laughing at that?
Yeah, if you're watching us on Facebook, Lewis puts up it's a white wolf, and it's howling, so it's awesome, and a bear too.
Every once in a while. Hey, we want to say happy birthday to Jason and Ogima Pinigigi, and thank you for everything you do on our show, for sure. It's
Go have fun.
If you can stay awake, because I know I'm about to fall asleep. Great. All right. Hey, I just want to answer this quick question. Can you please say the name of the documentary you are referring to? Thank you and peace. That's from Dawn, and that's Warrior Woman. And I don't know where you can see that, or if you can rent it. I'm not sure.
If you go to Warrior Women's Film and you can message them, they'll give you a 48-hour code to watch it online, so you can watch it for free.
As long as you do a TikTok, right?
Right. Exactly. Up to September 25th, get your groove on. You go on TikTok and win up to $500 with a TikTok contest by Women Warrior Film, womenwarrior.org, and submit a TikTok 30 seconds, 1 minute that is inspired by the film and win $500, Robert.
Yeah, right. Thanks, Lewis. Thank you so much. Wendy, hey, we've got a lot to talk about. I'm a lot in Wisconsin because that's where my nation's from. So I'm kind of paying attention politically what's happening there. And you have an article here that you really want to bring out that I'm proud to hear, and I think my tribe should jump in on.
Yeah, I wish that they would definitely. And this is really important. This is a press release from today, and it's dated September 21st, 2021. And it's Wisconsin tribes sue the state for treaty violations over the wolf hunt. Perfect. 6 Ojibwe tribes challenge the planned November hunt. So in Madison, Wisconsin, 6 tribes filed lawsuit today in the Western District of Wisconsin against the state for its planned November wolf hunt, claiming the proposed hunt violates the tribe's treaty rights. Wisconsin's Natural Resource Board approved a quota of 300 wolves for the upcoming November hunt, more than double the quota of 130 proposed by the Department of Natural Resources, a recommendation that was also considered by experts to be too high and not supported by scientific data and analysis. This November proposal follows a disastrous February hunt. The Ojibwe tribes asserted a treaty-protected right to half the wolves in ceded territory in Wisconsin in order to protect those wolves from Wisconsin's rushed and ill-advised hunt. Nevertheless, it was just 3 days. Hunters using packs of dogs, snares, and leg holds trapped and killed 218 wolves, exceeding both the state and tribal quotas and killing up to a third of the state's population. This is really sad.
Well, no, this is really positive.
It
that
is
the
positive
tribes
that they're
are stepping
standing up. Yes.
No, that's really positive.
And I'm hoping that they will continue to do this. And
Well, they're not going to stop. They just put this out. I think it's going to get momentum. And the last hunt, Wendy, was very sad because these nations didn't bring it up.
They did bring it up, but they didn't have enough momentum, I guess. And unfortunately, the state just does what they want anyway.
Exactly. It's crazy.
But the following are statements from representatives of the tribal nations and Earth Justice. So I just want to read one of these. Quote, in our treaty rights, we're supposed to share the state 50-50 in our resources. And we're feeling that we're not getting our due diligence because of the slaughter of wolves in February, said John Johnson, senior president of Lac du Flambeau Band of Lake Superior Chippewa Indians. The out-of-state hunters are petitioning the courts just so they can hunt, not to protect resources. The Ojibwe are accountable for everything when they hunt, fish, and gather any resources. The state goes off estimates. Last year, they shot 480 more black bears than they should have, and they said it will work itself out in the 5-year time period. This is a pattern they establish. We're looking out for the next 7th generation of our children. When we know it's wrong to hunt, we don't harvest. We step back, we assess the damage. We take care of our community in a good way, as others should. McGwitch, thank you. That's what he said.
Nate asked on here, could you say the tribes again that are on that petition?
Yeah, Earth Justice, it's Maggie Caldwell. I'm not saying this right, but it's Lac du Flambeau Tribe, John Johnson, senior president, Red Cliff Tribe, Marvin Defoe, and Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission, Charles Rasmussen.
Cool, thank you.
So those are all the contacts that got that are sending this to Wisconsin. Yeah. And they don't want this. It goes on and on with all the testimony from the representatives. Again, here, the Ojibwe understand that a healthy wolf population is critical for healthy ecosystem. The bands have asserted their treaty-protected rights to share of the wolves and ensure that the healthy wolf population is protected in Wisconsin. It goes on and on to say this. Now, hopefully, this the next hunt will be stopped. We all need to get in touch with our representatives and let them know. We need to sign every petition. Earlier today, I put a on our Facebook page, Native Roots Radio. It's a call to action, and you could put your name and address in there. And the great thing about it is it automatically sends it to your representatives, no matter where you live. You're giving them the message that you don't want wolves obliterated in the area where you live. We need to get in touch with President Biden, Deb Haaland, the Secretary of Interior, and let them know that saving the gray wolf is important to the American people, and they need to be put back on the endangered species list. It's imperative that they get put back on the list.
I agree 100%. I want to just give a shout out to Nate. Just let me know The Ho-Chunk Nation Department of Natural Resources did advocate against the wolf hunt.
Great.
And he said, Pinigi, thank you for naming those
Yeah,
tribal
no
nations.
problem.
Thanks, Nate.
Of course. Yes, absolutely. That was a great question, too. I should have named them in the beginning, but we need to take care of the wolves. They need to stay on the earth. They live in packs. They help the ecosystem. They weed out, sick elk and moose and all the big herd animals who are sick. And that in turn helps for other animals getting sick. So
Exactly.
that's what we need to do.
Well, again, Pinigigi for that update. I really feel like that's some positive news because the nations are stepping up.
Yes.
And I want to again thank Nate for pointing out that Ho-Chunk Nation really supports this too. That's
fantastic.
Just really awesome to hear. Hey, I would like to end with these thoughts. If you're listening to the show, you are part of the resistance. From Chief Plentycoops, the ground on which we stand on is sacred ground, is the blood of our ancestors. We need to resist, divest, join a group, and run for office. I want to thank Chase Iron Eyes, who was on, Taysha, who was on. She was awesome. And again, Ogima and Lewis for all his work, and Wendy with that great section. We are the 7th generation.
Free Leonard Peltier. Stop line 3. Please get vaccinated.
Located just north of 50th in France, the Great Wall Restaurant has provided a delicious taste of authentic Chinese cuisine since 1981.